Thursday, November 30th, last day of November here for the Sleepers Podcast. I'm GregWaddell. I got Tristan Freeman back from Busting Brackets. He has filled in admirably for the big fella Carter Elliott, who is still under the weather this week. Look, I don't mean to throw any allegations out there. I don't mean to target any particular person involved in this scenario, Tristan. But we just did our best YouTube day in channel history conveniently yesterday when Carter Elliott was unavailable. Do you have any comments?
Yeah, well, it's more so of a question for you, Greg, because you're a coach, you coach high school ball, so you know you're a leader among men. So I wonder about your philosophy. Are you a believer that people can lose their job, starters can lose their jobs to injury or sickness?
Anybody can lose their job at any given time. Yes.
Just feeling that out there. No reason at all. Just wonder, because football, it happens all the time. QBs go down. I'm not saying that I'm the Tom Brady to your Bill Belichick. We can throw some people out the way, but just saying things can always happen and people can emerge.
I mean, that's certainly true. Are you implying that as a backup quarterback, you're more J.J. McCarthy than you are Caden Hauser? Is that what we're saying here?
More so, I don't want to say it because it will be mean because he's sick. But I've always thought that Carter Elliott was the Kate McNamara podcast host, and maybe it's best that maybe he goes somewhere else and gets his shine on. Maybe he can go to his own Iowa podcast, and average 8 points a game, or in his case.
I think that might be the meanest thing anyone's ever said about Carter, and I've said some very mean things about Carter Elliott. So
but he's too sick to fight me, so I'm good.
You're right. Get your shots in while you can. Hey, Carter, I'm still wishing you well. I can't wait until you're back and you can rejoin the show, my friend. But Tristan's doing a great job, and we greatly appreciate him for being here. We also greatly appreciate the Heat Check guys who are really helping us out on the recaps and the previews right now. I was up late last night with Brian and Riley, who were both at the Dean Dome for North Carolina's huge win over Tennessee. We've got a Tennessee UNC recap. We've got a Duke Arkansas recap up on the channel. We're going to have a bunch more previews coming at you before the weekend. It's a great slate on Saturday. And since Carter has abandoned me, he was going to come visit. We were just going to have a fun little family time. Now suddenly I'm free on Saturday. So that means we're going to have a little more content for you on the channel. Lots of good stuff happening over here in Sleepers Land. For today, we're going to run this just like a normal podcast. We'll start with a YouTube comment of the day. And Tristan, you've been up since 6 a.m. and now you know the rhythm of the show. I'm expecting you to come prepared with a comment of the day today.
Yes, sir. I already have one from Justin Smith 8668. And he asks, is it a stretch to think that it is at the very least a slim possibility that Purdue goes undefeated in the regular season? He says, hopefully I'm insane, go Illini. So this is an Illini fan asking that question.
I love the audacity of an Illinois fan asking that, first of all. Like, that's the type of Illinois fan I want to align myself with, someone who's realistic, someone that's honest about how good other teams and players could potentially be. So kudos to this commenter, first of all. Look, I think I said it on the other show. Maybe I didn't go as like black and white with it as I wanted to. I 100% think this could happen. I really do. They have been so good in non-conference that at this point, I get Arizona's really good. They're going to be favored against Arizona. They're going to be big favorites against Alabama with how the Tide are playing right now. I don't think it's crazy at all to think they're going to win those games. That's an easier task than what they did in Maui. And then you're just looking at, okay, it's a 20-game Big Ten schedule. Obviously, it's hard to go undefeated. Teams rarely ever do this. But if there was ever a year to do it, I think it would be this year. Last year, Purdue lost 5 games. I think we went into conference play last year thinking Purdue could go like 18-2 maybe, and they ended up going 15-5. So I think it is still very unlikely, but I don't think there's a game on the schedule that you're circling right now thinking Purdue shouldn't win that game.
Yeah, but the 2-month marathon of league play and all those true road games, I question the motivation factor, because Purdue wanted to win Maui because everyone was hyping it up with all those great teams. So, of course, they were going to give their best. But going forward, the only thing that matters for them is the NCAA tournament. It's that round of 64 game they come up. they're going to win the Big Ten, but does it matter whether or not they go 20-0 versus 17-3? And there's going to be games where you have desperate bubble teams who are really going to try and get that win against them and boost their resume. I just don't see them having the mental fortitude to win every single game. They'll be in every, they certainly won't get blown out, but there's going to be one of those 70 to 65 upsets they have on a random Thursday night that no one was expecting, like it always happens.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. Like if you had to bet, will it happen or not? You definitely bet that it would, but I don't think it's crazy to think it might not. I'm just saying, I think there's teams that I'm less confident in than Purdue that have been undefeated at the end of the regular season. It's very rare. But it goes back to my point. Like I'm more afraid of this team than a lot of teams that we have seen in a while. And on the motivation point, Carter speculated this all offseason of like, yeah, do they really care about this? Aren't they just going to save everything for March and load up? What if it's the opposite, though? What if Matt Painter's just like, you know what? I don't know what we're going to do in March. That's where I'm bad. I'm scared of it. So let's be historically dominant where we're good instead, right? Like there's a chance that they do care 100 out of 100 about every game of this regular season. I think to this point in the season, it seems like they've cared even about the cupcake games with like Samford and Texas Southern. So I don't know, man. I think they're a buzzsaw. Like you would pick out the Rutgers game on the road. That's obviously scary. But if you go through their other away games here, none of these are that scary to me. Like at Maryland, not scary. At Nebraska, not scary. At Indiana, a lot less scary than it used to be. At Wisconsin, I guess. At Michigan, not scary. At Illinois is definitely scary. But like they don't go to the Breslin Center. They don't go to actually they do go to Carver Hawkeye. I don't know. I don't think they're gonna lose a bad one this year. They'll lose to like Illinois or Iowa or Rutgers on the road if it's one of them.
But I mean, there really aren't any bad ones other than Minnesota and Penn State. Like if they lost on the road at Iowa or they lost at Maryland, even like no one would actually view that as really a bad loss because they're all quad one games, and some of those teams at some point are really going to need that win, and a desperate team always pulls something out.
Yeah, I just can't wait until they're on the road so I can bet on them on the road. Like they're going to Northwestern tomorrow, and I can't wait to bet Purdue to cover whatever the spread is in that game.
Oh, that's so disrespectful to Bowie.
I love Boo. I love Boo Darius. Trust me. It's no disrespect, but this team's a wagon. I'm riding it all season long. All right, let's go to the Discord. Great comments night in the Discord last night. A lot of activity in there. Again, a couple new signups this week. It's been fantastic to see that growing. If you want to support this show, if you like what we do on the YouTube channel, the best way to do so is join the paid Discord. It is $9.99 a month. Sign up. You join this awesome community full of Purdue fans and a bunch of other fans. We need to try and even it out. But it's been fun. The game threads are really fun. And we got a lot of smart basketball people in there, including Tristan and including many others. We will respond to comments from the Discord every single day on this show. And today's comments start with Malik Perry, who has been actually kind of riding for he's been joking about how Michigan State should handle AJ Hoggard. And he kind of keeps saying like someone needs to hit him in the face. And I can't tell if Malik's kidding or not. This time Malik says Izzo needs to get things ready for the future underclassmen. They matter a lot, not one person with an ego. Give Fears and Holloman the keys to the car and see what they can do. Do you want to see a youth movement for Michigan State?
No, not in the beginning of December. I mean, we can't give up on this team just yet. Like they're still a Final Four contender, and mainly not even because of how they look, because of how everyone else looks. Like outside of Purdue and UConn, everyone else has just in Arizona has major flaws. Like it's still not too late for Michigan State to just all they need is just one emphatic win over a ranked team, and everyone will jump right back on the bandwagon. So I'm not ready yet, but I do understand people are starting to get annoyed or wary with Akins and Hoggard. And it's like, okay, if we're not actually going to win with them, then let's give these younger guards a chance and guarantee that they're not going to be portal candidates. I think it's more of an anti-feel to some of these veterans that they're sort of falling out of favor with.
Yeah, Fears is the one. That's the one that I care about right now. I don't think you need to worry about turn it over to any of the other freshmen right now, but work fears a little more in. And if he looks great in 25 minutes, then yeah, maybe we have a conversation about who's driving the car for the rest of the season. Melba said, is it time for another call-in segment from the Discord? About maybe 2 months ago now, I did a whole radio style show where I took calls from our Discord. We had people send voice notes in. Carter couldn't make it for that show. I would love to do that again. I thought that was one of my most fun times I've ever had recording this show, but I kind of want Carter there for the next one. I feel like he missed out on this fun exercise that we did. And honestly, his reactions to radio calls in would probably be the funniest thing that we could possibly do. So I want to save that. I love the idea of Melba. And if Carter continues to be out for like 2 weeks at a time, we might need to get creative, but I'm hoping he can be back soon. And maybe we can work that back in on like a once a month basis. Moving on here, Guy says, give me a recruiting pitch for Pitt. He's about to tour colleges over spring break. Guy has said that he plans on visiting the Michigan schools specifically out of his respect for Carter and I, which is much appreciated. I think Guy should also visit some of his other favorites. I think he mentioned Gonzaga at one point. I think Nebraska, obviously, he's a fan. He should go to Lincoln. Lincoln's a great time. What's the pitch for Guy to visit Pitt?
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm starting to get a little weary on Guy because it's starting to feel like a bag recruitment. You know, he's listening to a lot of these big names, these high profile schools. Like, why should I come here? Like, as if he's a 5-star prospect and we have to beg him to go here. But I'll give my pitch for Pittsburgh. First of all, no natural disasters in our area. We're 2 away from the East Coast for hurricanes. We're not close enough to the Midwest for tornadoes. Worst thing that happens in Pittsburgh is it just gets cold every once in a while, so you don't have to deal with that. And then we got a whole bunch of hills. If you one of those walking freaks, I mean that's a positive. I'm sure Connor Hope from Heat Check would love to live here because he can just walk all these hills to his heart's desire. And then if you really want to come here, you can get a doctor's checkup without having to worry about your life. You come here.
I now understand why you've had one high profile recruit that's worked out in like 15 seasons, because if the second thing on your list is we've got hills for those freaks that like to walk hills, that's not a very good pitch.
We're a boring city. We're a boring city.
Well, hey, Guy, I'm not going to pitch you. I want you to visit all these places, and I think where I attended school will end up speaking for itself. That's what I truly believe. Fam is back. He says, playing off yesterday's show, he wants 3 relative fun facts about Monaco and a rough outline of where it's located for the viewers.
Yeah, so rough outline, it's located somewhere near France because France basically controls it. I'm not a map guy. I couldn't tell you. But it's right there near the Mediterranean Sea and all that. Apparently, there is an AS Monaco of soccer club. I didn't know there was an AS. I don't know what that stands for, but it's in League One, and they're in 3rd place right now behind Nice or Nice. I don't know how you pronounce that, and PSG. I think they had Neymar on there a couple of years ago, but I think he's out there somewhere in Saudi Arabia. So they're actually a good football team. But some facts, Monaco, they are a constitutional monarchy. Basically means that one person rules it, but they try to pretend as if other people can have a say in it. And their leader is Prince Albert II. That's just not necessary. Apparently, by sports fact, they have the most ever appearances in the Olympics, summer and winter, without ever getting a gold medal. So they're basically the BYU of Olympic sports, which good for them. Apparently they had like in 1940 they won like an art medal, but Olympics don't count that as actual sports, so they haven't done anything athletic wise, but apparently they're good painters. That's good for them. And then I did not know this when doing research, but apparently a famous American actress, do you know who Grace Kelly is?
I sure do. Yeah,
so she actually married a prince of Monaco. So she was the princess of Monaco up until 1980 when she tragically passed away in a car accident. I didn't know this, but I actually watched her before. And she did part of the Alfred Hitchcock's movies, such as Dial M for Murder and To Catch a Thief. I don't know if you know this, but I'm a big mystery fan. and I've seen a couple of his movies along with the Perry Masons of the world. So she's like one of the biggest, famous figures from Monaco to ever come from there. And I didn't even know I actually watched her before.
First of all, I'm so overwhelmed right now. I'm speechless. Great preparation by you. I don't know. Like, I feel like all the hashtags, we're not a history podcast, not a map podcast, not an art podcast. Like, we just went through the ringer of this. Very impressive. You know your stuff on Monaco. You threw out the name Grace Kelly, by the way. Just want to add on to that. Grace Kelly, great song by the hit band Mika back in the, I think it was the late 2000s, maybe early 2010s. You know the song I'm talking about, Tristan?
Isn't he the person that did I Used to Know? Is that the person?
That is yeah, that is not not Mika. Grace Kelly.
Sorry, white people.
Grace Kelly is maybe the greatest bridge in pop music that I can remember. I kind of am tempted to try and sing it right now, but it requires a vocal range that is insane. Should I go for it? I'm kind of scared.
Do it.
All right. I used to do this. It's been a while. It's like, I could be brown, I could be blue, I could be violet sky, I could be yellow. That's nice. That's nice.
Yeah, that's nice.
Let's move on. Okay, Coy's getting us on track here. He says Colorado. Are we sure?
No, we're not sure. I'd like KJ Simpson can go off for 20 or he can go 3 of 20. And that's not good enough for them to be there. And Cody Williams is like a solid freshman, but he's not the Brandon Miller types that people thought he could have been entering the year.
Yeah, we're not sure. I think we're more sure they're not good than we are unsure they're great. They're fine. Like, I shouldn't have said not good. They're fine. They're a good basketball team. They'll win some games, but I don't think they have a super high ceiling. I do think Colorado State's very good. So it's like, by no means is it a bad result to lose by 5 points at Colorado State. But yeah, out on the Buffs being any sort of serious contender here. Did you have a bit, by the way? Fam was asking for a bit. Do you have a bit?
Yeah, I actually just thought about it a couple minutes ago. So I'm not going to tell you what the bit is. I'm just going to do it throughout the show, and I'm going to have you guess what it is.
I mean, really putting the work on me right now. I'm terrified, but all right, I'm with it. I'm scrolling through the rest of these comments, like just a lot of discussion back and forth. I don't think anything we really need to read on the show. Carter, good to see. Apparently his fingers still work because he is responding in the Discord. That's great. Here's one from Ryan the Lion. I don't know if he actually wants us to answer it on the show, but he says, is Collier legit? I know people are saying so, but I haven't watched USC yet. What do you think of Isaiah Collier so far?
He's great. He's truly legit. Should be a top 3 pick in the draft. He has a huge game. Him and Boogie Ellis against Gonzaga. 2 teams with no backcourt depth. So it's going to be great with seeing all those guards play 40 minutes against each other. It's going to be a really good test for them. So I can't wait to see that one this Saturday.
I am with you. I love Isaiah. He's one of my favorite players to watch in the country. I think he oddly has not even played like to his ceiling yet. Like last night he was in foul trouble and he still had a really productive night, but he had a bunch of turnovers in the first couple weeks. Then last night he's just clunky and it was Boogie's game. I think we're going to see the best version of Isaiah like come in conference play and just be there every single night without like the ups and downs. And the thing that makes USC scary is no matter what else they have around them, when you get in a single elimination setting and Boogie and Isaiah Collier are across from you, I don't care who you are, you're terrified of that matchup. Because if those guys just play their A-plus game, sometimes there's not a lot you can do about it unless you have the right personnel and you're really going to mortgage, like, let's put 2 guys on both of these guys and maybe leave open shots for somebody else. It's going to be fascinating to watch. I wouldn't be surprised at all if they make a deep run in March if Isaiah hits his stride. Here's one more from Ryan Lyon. He says, what Power 6 school feels like it doesn't belong or / you forget about, and who should replace them? Teams that come to mind for me are DePaul, Vanderbilt, Michigan, and Cal. Hold on for a moment here. I just want to say, Ryan, I love you. I respect you. You are an integral member. You are an integral member of this Discord. You really are. your Michigan stuff is just nonsense, man. Like there's you'll probably take this as an insult. And honestly, I kind of think I mean it as an insult, Ryan.
Yeah.
You talk about Michigan the way Michigan fans talk about Michigan State. And it's the arrogance that just makes no sense. Like there's supposed to be a reverence here for the respect from the rivalry. And I get we all hate each other, and that's fine. And I get that I'm a mutant, but like you lumping in Michigan with DePaul is just nonsensical. It's true absurdity. Like you have to have a level of respect for a program that's gone to as many Final Fours as you have in the last 10 years. And on the football sides, going to the playoff for the third consecutive season. Like you don't have to like it, but goodness, my friend, you lose credibility as just a sports person if you lump us in with DePaul and with Vanderbilt and with Cal. Tristan, what's your answer to his question, though?
Yeah, he got exactly what he wanted with your little rant. So good for Ryan on baiting you on that response. But I'm gonna go to Boston College because what's the point of having them? I mean, they do nothing in football. They do nothing in basketball. I mean, the ACC already adding in, some of these bad teams like Cal and SMU. We can probably afford to lose them, and they should probably go to the A10 and just, try the UMass model and see if that works for them. And if we could replace the ACC with them, give me James Madison. I want to ride the wave on what they're doing, ranked in football, ranked in basketball. They actually can win. They actually can beat a Big Ten opponent. I'll take them right now.
I like the Boston College call out. I don't think I have a better one than that, to be honest with you. I'm trying to rack my brain thinking of random schools, but yeah, I don't know. Like, have they ever done anything really to make me notice them? Not really ever.
They sabotaged Pitt by giving us their awful quarterback, and we had to bench them 4 games into the year and make them a tight end. So no love for.
Saddest moment of my college football betting season was when you benched Djokovic, because I had been fading him automatically every game his whole career, and it was such a moneymaker. And then Narduzzi finally realized, oh yeah, I can just bench this guy, and suddenly Pitt got better at football. Sad. And then final comment of the day, this is from Craig Bowers. He says, in regards to Purdue's 3-point discussion, Lawyer and Smith hit the freshman wall last year, percentages dipped. If you want to go back 1 year to predict historical trend lines, go back 1 more year than that. Gillis shoots 40%, Jones shoots higher, First shoots higher, etc. You can't cherry pick data. I think I entirely agree with Craig here. Do you have any thoughts?
No, not really. I mean, ultimately, shooters are going to shoot. They'll have their ups and downs. As long as they've shown that they can be a threat, that's ultimately what matters. And I'm not worried about Purdue shooting at all for Purdue.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Great day. Comment section. Thank you, as always, for your important presence in this show. If you want to join the Discord, if you want to be someone who we read the comments of every single day, it is $9.99 a month to do so. You get some other things as well. You get our Sleepers Bets newsletters. With that, you get free access to my Dub Club, which means I send every single betting pick that I make this season. Finally had a great day with that yesterday, by the way. Hit 5 out of 6 player props, hit 3 out of 5 of the against the spread picks. So a bunch of reasons to join the Discord beyond just supporting us. Click the link in the description if you want to join. We have 3 topics today. Let's start with the ACC-SEC challenge has ended. 7-7 is the final results, unless my math is wrong. Not a math podcast, so don't hold me accountable for that. But interesting results here. I thought this was a bunch of fun, entertaining games. I enjoyed it. I mean, it felt kind of like just replacement of the Big Ten ACC Challenge. Obviously, I missed my conference being in it, but in general, this was pretty good basketball. Some interesting things came out of this, though. I have one note that I marked down that I'm very excited to point out, and I'm curious if you'll get there before I say it. What was your biggest takeaway from the conclusion of this event?
That from the ACC perspective, I still have no clue on almost any of these teams outside of UNC. The Virginia Texas A&M result just didn't make sense because it was basically a complete flip from the Wisconsin. And by the way, Virginia is literally playing 5 guards. I mean, Jacob Groves, the Oklahoma transfer, is playing the 5 spot for them. You got Ryan Vaughn, you got Dunn, You got McNeely. Like the fact that they're playing so small and it's still this formidable against opposing front courts is a problem. But this is a team that still can't score. They don't have much offensive firepower. Reese Beekman is basically the same guy he's always been. He's going to give you 10, 5, and 6, which is fine, but I just don't know what Virginia is going to do. Like they're probably going to end up being 15-5 in league play, but I still am not going to like them at all. And Wake Forest is another one. I mean, they beat Florida, which was, I mean, everyone was riding high on Florida. Hunter Sallis, 24 points. I mean, the Gonzaga transfer, he's been great. But they're also a team that can lose to Georgia, who, by the way, came back and beat Florida State last night. That was an interesting response. Pitt losing to Missouri, even though Pitt's defense looked fine, they couldn't score for 10 minutes. Virginia Tech, I think we can say is bad. Now, I think we can actually say that the Rodney Rice departure for them is really, really going to hurt them. And then Duke, and you talk with this with Ralph on the recap. You know, all eyes are going to be on Tyrese Proctor and his struggles, but McCain and Foster have to do more than 1 or 12 combined from the field as well. And if they're not going to play any of the big Southside of Filipowski and Mitchell, they're all of a sudden don't have as many offensive weapons as I thought they had. And everyone said this, they were soft. They got fairly pumped. Now, I'm not going to be mad that you lose a road game in Arkansas, but we still get to see them look actually good against good competition. So, you know, the ACC, you know, drew with the SEC. I think everyone has the SEC much higher. But, you know, this conference could be really weird again, and it might not only get about 4 or 5 bids because, quite frankly, teams from 3 to 13 can all literally beat each other any day of the week.
Okay. I agree with your takeaways. I'm trying to make sure I want to go as harsh as I'm going to go on this. I think outside of the top 4 to 5 maybe in the SEC, but top 4 teams, I think everybody in both of these conferences is extremely mediocre. That's my takeaway. Can we go game by game on this quickly? Yeah. And then I have a number here, but like just going game by game. Mississippi State losing to Georgia Tech. Both those teams stunk. And I get Mississippi State should be better, but that was 2 bad basketball teams that played in that game. Notre Dame, South Carolina, bad. LSU, Syracuse, horrible outside of Judah Mintz, who's fun. Missouri and Pitt, I get. We like Pitt. Missouri stinks. That was a really bad result for Pitt. And I still like Pitt. But that was old Pitt. That was old, ugly, bad basketball. NC State and Ole Miss, I thought was a horrible basketball game. Florida and Wake Forest, we're supposed to like Florida. They got wrecked in the second half against a bad Wake Forest team. Boston College and Vanderbilt, horrible basketball. Credit to Boston College for showing up. Bad basketball. Georgia, Florida State was an entertaining game. Georgia's bad. They're not supposed to win on the road in that game. And then you're left with Virginia Tech and Auburn. I thought Auburn looked good, and that's the team I would put 5th in the SEC. That's why they get 5 instead of 4.
Well, I would correct you on that. Auburn did not look good. Janai Broome looked good. And Chad Baker-Mazara looked good. Those guards were awful. And Aiden Holloway, you know, I mean, if for all the fun we made of Katie Johnson and Wendell Green, Holloway's looked like Green for a bit sometimes. Like that needs to improve because they're gonna go up against a team that actually has a front court to defend them. So Broome, great. The rest of the Auburn,
Yeah, after a really good start for Holloway, he's 5 for 26 from the floor in his last 3 games. I mean, I don't know what you're gonna do with that. But that's my broad takeaway here is like I think these conferences are both extremely top heavy. And say what you want about the Big Ten. There is no top other than Purdue, right? And Purdue barely even counts as a Big Ten team at this point. They should go be independent. They don't feel like a Big Ten team anymore. But outside of them, it's like, okay, there's a bunch of teams we wish were top 25, but in reality, it's like the number 1 team in the country, and then maybe 9 different teams that are anywhere from 30 to 60 in the country. That's how I view the Big Ten. But the ACC and the SEC don't have that. Like there's teams that are supposed to be top 20 in the country at the top in both have like 4 to 5. And then when you drop to 6 in the ACC or the SEC, it's like a team that's barely top 100 in the country to me. And I don't know what you do with that. I know the ACC's gotten hit where they don't have a lot of bids in recent years. The SEC seems like they pump a bunch of teams into the NCAA tournament every year. But look at last year. Texas A&M went 15-5 in the SEC, got steamrolled by Penn State when they got to the tournament. So that's just a weird takeaway I had. Was like, I expected this to feel like a really big time event. And instead I came away feeling like it was super top heavy with a bunch of mediocre basketball outside of it.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to look at it positively, Wake Forest really struggled in the first couple weeks. They still have potential, but they don't have the Maury Monsanto. They're still waiting on Ethan Reed waiver. If they can get consistent production from anywhere outside the top three, they could be a good team. I just, like you said, like none of these teams are bad, which is to start somewhere. Like none of these teams are awful outside of Louisville, but the problem is if they don't in the next month don't start getting bigger wins, then all they're going to do, we're going to have a whole bunch of teams 10-10 in league play, 12-8 in league play with mediocre records. Like Wake Forest is setting themselves up once again to have 5 non-con losses, go 12-8 in league play, look like a tournament team, and they're going to be right on the bubble. And then even right now, like Pitt, like people are impressed with Pitt, but Oregon State's the best one they have. Like, that's not good enough. And Oregon State's basically a bye-game opponent. Like, if they lose to Clemson on Saturday, then they're going to have a bunch of more bye games to round out the schedule because West Virginia on the road is not going to matter much. It's you don't want to get nervous when it comes to resume building, but how many signature games do you have coming up? Like, at least North Carolina, looking as good as they did against Tennessee, gives you hope that UNC can actually be top 10 potential. But even them showed some flaws in the battle for this.
Yeah. So here's the number. To define, even while I'm saying it's top heavy, but just to define how unimpressed I was with a lot of these games, there were 8 teams that entered this event in both conferences total. 8 teams that were ranked in the top 25 AP poll. They went 2-6 in this event, and the 2 wins were games between ranked teams. So somebody had to win. Like, there were 4 different games that a ranked team lost to an unranked team in this event. I don't think that's good. And I know that should work in conflict with what I'm saying of like, oh, maybe there is a middle class that deserves mention. In reality, I don't think it's that. I think it's that the elite teams in this conference or in these conferences are not as elite as we wish they were. And the middle is not as good as we wish it was. And look, the country at large, I think, is falling victim to this too. There's a level playing field. So I don't mean to like make it relative and say these conferences are awful and write them off. But I came away pretty unimpressed with everybody across the board here that's not North Carolina and that's not Kentucky. Like, those were the big winners here, right? You have North Carolina, who now looks like they should win the ACC, Kentucky, who now looks like they should win the SEC, and then a bunch of what ifs.
But here's the good news, though, if you're an ACC fan like myself. I'll ask you this. Has the Pac-12 looked impressive outside of Arizona?
I think UCLA had moments in Maui.
But largely outside the top 3 or 4, you're not impressed.
I don't know. I honestly think there's more there than there is in the ACC or the SEC right now. I know that sounds crazy.
Like Washington?
No, but I think Utah has earned their keep thus far. I think even though we're skeptical with Colorado, that's a team that like I would put in like the 5th range in the ACC right now. I think UCLA has a higher ceiling than anybody that's not Duke and Carolina. I think USC looks really good.
Well, I guess overall, outside of the Big 12, no one else has really looked dominant in terms of a conference that's going to snatch up a bunch of bids. Like Big 10 will get theirs because, they play the numbers well. The Big East outside the top 4 have had their struggles. I mean, St. Mary's falling apart. That's probably going to be a bid that opens up. I mean, the Mountain West, Colorado State looks good, but how has New Mexico and Boise State looked good? So I wouldn't panic. I agree that it's more balanced overall. And if you're, the A10 or some other leagues hoping to try to sneak out another bid, it's been a fairly decent process, although a lot of teams now have resume builders to speak on if they start to go on a roll.
Are we saying the sport is cooked? Is that the takeaway here?
I don't think balance means it's cooked. Not yet.
Okay. All right. I'm just kind of dreading where we're headed here. We're looking at every conference being like, yeah, there's a lot of average teams at best. I don't like that because last year we ended up with 3 average teams in the Final Four, and I just hated that. I want some good teams to play good, please. Okay. All right. Let's move on. But thank you for admitting the ACC stinks and Pitt's a bubble team at best. That was very nice of you. Let's move on.
You're welcome, fellow bubble team.
Where would Michigan finish in the ACC?
Like 6 or 7.
Yeah, that's low. That's really.
What do you mean low? Okay, y'all have all you have is a win over Stanford. Congratulations, Stanford and St. John's. That's what you hang your hat on.
Yeah, St. John's is our best win, not Stanford.
Yeah, that's what is, and then you're all of a sudden a very good team.
No, I'm saying the ACC stinks, so we would finish like 4th in it.
And no, y'all stink too, so y'all would be just right in the filth.
Nah,
everybody's stinking.
Nah,
and y'all defense stinks. So when Hunter Styles drops 40 on you, yeah, you stink.
Oh man, I would love to play Hunter Salas instead of I don't know, go to the Kohl Center. I would love to, truly. Anyways, let's move on. Speaking of teams that stink right now, Villanova loses at home to St. Joseph's. Not great, not a good result. We should note St. Joe's has now looked very good against the 2 big games on their schedule. They took Kentucky to overtime at Rupp Arena, and now they basically led from start to finish against Villanova. They coast to a 13-point victory in the second half. Got a little dicey early in the second half, and then St. Joe's just immediately created more separation. And like I said, coasted to a victory here. Villanova was the Battle for Atlantis champions a week ago. Everybody was feeling great about them. Everybody was giving Kyle Neptune his flowers for the great portal class and how he rebuilt this roster. And they're a serious contender. I've heard everybody on After Dark from the Big East world try and tell me that this team belongs right up there with Marquette and right up there with UConn right now, especially when you get to the end of the season. This was Justin Moore and Eric Dixon and nothing else. That's been my fear with this team from the start. We saw last year Justin Moore and Eric Dixon are not good enough to carry a bad team. Tyler Burton, TJ Bamba, they no-showed this game. They were not there. What did you see from Villanova?
I've seen enough to know that I have completely changed my tune on Kyle Neptune. And not that I even have an opinion on him, because this isn't his fault. These transfers are just not good. And we've seen them enough against good competition to know that for some reason they just stink. Like Tyler Burton cooked St. Joe's when he was at Richmond. And he goes for 4 shot attempts. And I don't want to box score watch, but I do want to be very specific when it comes to these players. TJ Bamba, who averaged 17 a game at Washington State, 1 point, 0 of 5 shooting in 34 minutes. Hakeem Hart, 6 points in 10 minutes. The fact that he only plays 10 minutes is a problem in itself. And then, again, Burton, 5 points. Lance Ware, reportedly, he got a bag when he left Kentucky to go to Villanova. That might be the biggest heist in history because he's just 0 points in 8 minutes. And you cannot rely on Moore and Dixon to do it all. They have nothing. And at some point, it's not Neptune. It's just these guys just can't play well in roles that aren't their own. Like Tyler Burton can only be a number 1 option. He doesn't know what to do when he's a number 3 option. Like Hakeem Hart, supposed to be the versatile role player. Can't even do that. And Bamba, just a shooter. He can't do that. I can't blame Neptune for the fact that these transfers just don't want to show up against the St. Joe's team, who, by the way, don't defend. They're not really a good defensive team. They've had their own problem. Billy Lange has been on the hot seat for the Hawks. They do have a ton of talent. Eric Reynolds is a stud. Cameron Brown, great. Lynn Greer, great. They didn't even have their big man, the 7-foot freshman, Chris Sissendoko. Didn't even have him. And yet Villanova, outside of Dixon, has no size to exploit that. They're a team that, from a talent perspective, can beat anyone. They're not going to be consistent enough. They're not going to run 4 wins in a row. They're going to lose probably to DePaul. They're going to struggle against St. John's for no reason. I'm just naturally out on them because you can't be this inconsistent. But again, it's not the coach. These just have inconsistent players that are supposed to be better than what they have been so far.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm going to go metaphor route here with Villanova and how they've been building their roster. And please forgive me. I think this is one of the clunkiest, worst metaphors I've ever tried to unveil on this show. But what I feel like Kyle Neptune's trying to do here is he's trying to go buy like $1 hash brown at McDonald's. Okay. Like that's the end goal here is I need to go get $1.06 to go buy a hash brown. And last year's roster had 3 quarters. It had Cam Whitmore, who was a quarter. It was like a kind of gross quarter. Like he fell to the ground a couple of times, maybe got some like sticky goo that stuck to him, but he was a quarter. Then you had Eric Dixon and you had Justin Moore, who were also quarters. And they were 25 cents short, 31 cents short with tax, right? They needed to just get a little more ammo here. We need to get our funds up. So what do? Cam Whitmore leaves. Neptune says, I'm going to go out and get 3 guys from the portal. The problem is, as much as people praise this portal class, TJ Bamba and Tyler Burton and Hakeem Hart and Lance War are not quarters. Those are like nickels or dimes at best. Like if you want to give them credit, Bamba's a dime, Burton's a dime, Hakeem Hart's a dime, and Lance Ware's a nickel. 35 cents in 4 guys instead of 25 cents in 1 guy doesn't get you to your dollar, even if it puts you incrementally ahead of where you were last year. That's how I feel about Villanova. And because it looks so different and there's more players there, I think people were quick to praise how good this roster is and how good of a job Kyle Neptune did and what the ceiling is. When in reality, these guys are role players and role players that haven't been very good. Like I'm sorry, Tyler Burton, I know he's been productive. I thought that Richmond team really underachieved last year because he hit a wall and didn't have a higher ceiling beyond what he was. TJ Bamba, good player. I don't think he's a great player on great teams. We've just never seen that. Hakeem Hart, I don't know where the narrative flipped on Hakeem Hart. He's always been an irrelevant role guy at Maryland. And now here he is on Villanova. And I think people gassed him up like he's one of the best shooters in the country when it's just not the case. So even if those guys were good versions of themselves, that leaves you in a spot where you're still looking around in the room and saying, Eric Dixon, Justin Moore, you're our go-to guys. Those guys proved fully incapable of being successful as top 2 options on a team last year. And I get that Justin Moore was hurt. It's good to see him healthy right now. Justin Moore would be a great number 2. Eric Dixon would be a great number 3. Those guys are not 1 and 2s on a good team. And there's a caliber drop off to this Villanova team that I think everyone needs to begrudgingly accept, because when they get into the Big East play, like there's going to be elite teams they have to play every single week. They're going to lose those games more often than not because they don't have the talent to match up.
And by the way, they're all playing out of position because Justin Moore is basically the point guard. Because Mark Armstrong, 16 minutes, like 2 shot attempts. I mean, basically he's just out there spelling it. And Moore had 3 assists and 4 turnovers. The team had more turnovers than assists. Like that's just not going to work offensively. Tyler Burton is a 3 playing the undersized 4, and he's not rebounding. So if you're not actually creating mismatches as the undersized 4, then you're pretty much the negative. And Eric Dixon has to play the 5 because Lance Ware is not good, and Nana Njoku, the former 4-star prospect, can't get on the court. So you have a bunch of dudes not in their true positions. It's showing on the defensive end because they're getting cooked by mid-major folks. Like St. Joe's and Penn have really good talent, but if you're getting cooked by them, imagine what's going to happen when Marquette, UConn, even the St. John's players go up against you. Like you're not going to be able to stop them. And they don't have any answers. And I mean, if you're going to have Justin Moore play point guard, then you're going to have to settle with the fact that he's just going to put up 20 shot attempts and 2 assists, and you're just going to hope everyone else can score on their own in ISO ball. They should, like Bamba was able to score in ISO. Burton was able to score in ISO. Those guys didn't even have good point guard plays in their previous spots. So the fact that they can't even do it now, it's just maybe you can blame coaching, but again, it's weird. And Burton was a role player at Richmond before when he first started, because when the Spiders make the tournament, you had Jacob Gilliard and other guards playing well. So it's not like he's not used to being the 3rd option, but I guess he got so comfortable just being the guy that he literally forgot what to do when he only gets 6 or 7 shot attempts to make the most of it. But I just don't understand this team, and I think they're just going to be naturally inconsistent throughout all 30 games.
Yeah, I don't think it's a Neptune, like maybe broader Neptune's not the guy, and that's a problem. But I don't think it's like a Neptune's mismanaging the team now that the season's here problem, which some people have hinted at. I think it's more just like this is a roster problem. This roster has limitations, and it's going to be tough for him to figure out on the fly. Also, like, I get Villanova fans are probably going to push back on this, be like, guys, we just won the Battle for Atlantis. This was a bad game, but this is a good team. I would push back pretty harshly on the performance of the Battle for Atlantis by just throwing this out there. I think that entire field stunk. North Carolina was obviously very good. That was obviously a great win. Villanova deserves all the credit in the world for winning that game in overtime. Also, the North Carolina team they beat in that game was a little bit different than the team that Hubert's been forced into playing, because Cadeau only played 17 minutes off the bench in that game. And I think he's one of the things that makes them special. And he had foul trouble in that game. To me, the other wins, like, yeah, you give them credit, but we don't know how good Memphis is, and Texas Tech's not that good, even though they're a great defense. So, yes, they deserve their stars for winning that game. This team clearly has an NCAA tournament ceiling. Like, they should be an NCAA tournament team, even if they play poorly this year. But having two blips on the radar now is scary to me. Losing the game at Penn and now losing at home to St. Joe's it's eye-opening to me. It's not just like, oh, that was a bad game. It's like, no, this team has a pretty low floor that people might not want to admit. And just last question on this. Are we too quick to dismiss St. Joseph's? I mean, this is a team that lost to Texas A&M Commerce a month ago.
Yeah, I have them number 2 in the preseason because from a talent perspective, when fully healthy, they're one of the best mid-majors in the country. The problem is the same way people feel about certain coaches is how St. Joe's fans feel about Billy Lange, because they're incredibly inconsistent, really poor defensively at times, and can struggle offensively. They barely scored 50 against Texas A&M Commerce, and that was just a situation where they were not ready. And the concern with them is when focused, they can beat anyone. They just don't have that day-to-day consistency where they can come in and beat Dayton, but then not lose to LaSalle. So talent-wise, this isn't a surprise to anyone. The question is, can they build off of this and continue to play good ball back-to-back games? And we'll see, because I believe in the next week or so, they take on undefeated Princeton, who's been excelling so far out of the Ivy League. That's a game that St. Joe's should win, and that's going to be a really interesting game. You know, if they didn't lose to Texas A&M Commerce, you could argue that they're the best team in the A-10, but I just want to see them consistently beat teams they're supposed to beat before I can truly believe them that they can win the league. But talent-wise, they're legitimately great.
All right. Yeah, it's good to know, because when you just watch them, like I watched the Kentucky game, I watched the Villanova game, they don't feel crazily undermanned talent-wise against those teams, which I think speaks loudly to what you're saying. Like, this is a team that should have a lot of success in the A-10. I won't pretend to be a St. Joseph's expert by any means, but I definitely came away from both those games being like, wow, this team has dudes that can hang against the best of the best in the country. And at least that's how I felt after the Kentucky game. I don't think Villanova is the best of the best in the country, so I'm not surprised they hung in this game whatsoever. Also, just want to throw this out there. I did jump on St. Joseph's live at halftime to win this game. Got a nice little payout around the plus 300 range. So for any bettors out there, your boy's back. I'm feeling good. Villanova, you'll be all right. You'll make the tournament this year. Keep your head up, but also get your shit together. That was not the best performance. Final topic today. I can't believe we have to go back to this, but I mean, we simply have to. Is Kenny Payne doing a bit at this point? I don't understand why he keeps doing what he's doing in press conferences. If you didn't see it last night, just another extremely viral Kenny Payne moment. This time he's talking about Ty-Lor Johnson, who Kenny claims, this was his claim in the quote. If you watch the full video that's out there, the claim was that Ty-Lor Johnson did not want to play. He wasn't sure he wanted to play because they didn't have the right tights that he wanted. So he apparently mentally was not all the way there, didn't want to play. And then in the second half, this is an exact quote from Kenny Payne. In the second half, he accepted the fact that we didn't have the kind of tights that we never had for him. And he played well. If you watch the video of this quote, like, people in the room are visibly taken aback by this. Like there's an out loud audible chuckle from someone who's just like, what did you just say? It's such a baffling choice to say this. And I think Kenny Payne was clearly making a joke. Like he's trying to make light of a situation. He tried to play it into like college kids these days. Am I right? But all it does is further exemplify his incompetence as a man who's tasked with running this Louisville basketball program. So seriously, I'm convinced he's doing a bit. I think that's what this is. I think this is a conscious decision to look incompetent. For what reason, I don't know. What is your read on the Kenny Payne situation?
Yeah, so if I look at it optimistically, I would argue that if this was any other team and any other coach, and he was like, oh, yeah, one of our players didn't even want to play because he didn't have the right tights, but he stuck through it, we'd be like, oh, ha, 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 whatever. But when you're a team who needed a Conference USA program to lose an extra player on the court to beat them in overtime, and you've already had 2 awful losses, and everyone views you as a joke, then ironically, there's nothing funny about Louisville basketball right now because it's really sad. Like even after what they did in Empire Classic, they haven't looked good since. Like they look back to being bottom feeders, and people are just sort of wondering, like, do you have any kind of control on the program? Because like if a player says to Rick Pitino or any coach, hey, I don't even want to play if I don't have my tights, that coach is literally going to look at him and say, okay, well, you can sit down and not play today. And that would have been the end of it. And he would have kept it under wraps because he would have been so mad. And I think the problem is, why isn't Kenny Payne mad that a player on a team that can barely beat anyone is even talking about that when you still need him? Like he had 8 points against Bellarmine, and they needed all 8 of them to get by, who was a really bad D1 program. The fact that that's even, part of the what seems to be an awful culture right now is just really disastrous. And I just don't. I think Kenny Payne, and if you want to look at it negatively, maybe he wanted to out him. Maybe he wanted to embarrass Tyler Johnson. Like that's what you're doing. I'm going to put it out here in the public radar so everyone can know and everyone can look at you looking bad. But at the end of the day, none of us is going to care about a backup freshman. We're all going to be looking at you as like the fact that he told you that shows how little respect he has for you. And he's just simply a freshman that's only known you for a couple of months.
Yeah, I hope it's not that. It could be that, but I hope it's not like a mind game to try and embarrass a kid, because even if this is exactly what happened, even if there's a generous interpretation of this event for Kenny Payne that he's telling the truth, it's like that's just a devious way to go about this. Like it's bad on your character if you're trying to throw your player under the bus like that. If that actually happened, I would hope as a man you try and protect that person and work things out behind the scenes. It should just be stated, there was absolutely no need to go here. Like there was not a pointed question that he needed to answer here. And if he needed to address what happened with Tyler, he could have easily just said, kind of dodged the question, right? Like, yeah, well, he was ready. We got him ready for the second half. He's good to go. Like, no further questions. Like, fine, not an issue whatsoever. Nobody's talking about it. Kenny made the conscious decision to go into detail about such an absurd situation that means one of two things to me here. And one of them is a conspiracy, but I truly believe this is where we're at. Either Kenny is just that stupid, and this is a disastrous hire that we all kind of think it is right now, right? Like if he's that stupid enough to think this was like a funny thing he could just talk about in the media, he's so in over his head, and this is just not going to end well. What I think is actually happening here, it's a full-blown conspiracy theory, but I believe this makes more sense than Kenny being that stupid. His buyout is $8 million if he gets fired this year. His buyout is $6 million if he gets fired next season. It's going to keep dropping. He knows he's not in this job long, right? Like Kenny's not an idiot. He might be, but I don't think anyone can be that stupid. Like even if you're stupid, there's people in your life that have to be telling you like, you're not long for this job unless something changes, right? So he can read his contract. He's got people that can advise him on what's in his best financial interest. And he knows there's no way in hell he's still the head coach of this program at most generously 2 years from now, but realistically at the end of the season. If he knows he's gone, the smartest thing he could do financially is get fired. It's an extra $2 million, right?
Yeah, well, and to add on to it, not only would he want to leave, he'd also want to put it out there like, hey, this is who I'm working with. These are the players that I have to deal with. We have a guy who doesn't even want to play because he doesn't want his tights going on. Because this is a guy who still has NBA connections. And I'm sure he doesn't want to be fully done coaching, even if he's just an assistant. It's like, hey, these are the players that I'm kind of dealing with. It's not all me. Like this isn't good. So maybe he's also just putting that out there for the future, saying, hey, look at this.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's the only thing that makes sense, as sad as that is, and it's not fair to his kids. But I know it's speculation. I truly believe that that's what's happening here. I think he knows he's not long for the job and is just in full-blown burn it down mode. If I get fired, great. I get $2 million more. Let's do Carter and I have done like how long is he gonna last for, and he already made it further than Carter thought he would. This is the second time he's had like a viral quote this season. The first one was when he said Mike Woodson tricked him when he went zone. That was hilarious. What's the next viral thing that Kenny Payne's gonna say? Like, can we predict the next excuse he makes? Like, where is this headed?
It has to be the DePaul game. I think he's going to say something, win or lose, in that game. Something about the talent level, or maybe he might actively joke about the fact that, I'm not going to get fired after this one if he wins, because everyone's going to call it the fire game. Like whoever loses that one probably gets canned. And I think he's going to make some kind of joke, because maybe he just doesn't care, and he's just going to say what's on his mind, which I appreciate as a media member, but something's going to happen. I think he may be so self-conscious about how bad the team is that he's sort of trying to joke his way a little bit out of it in the media, which backfires because the team is a joke.
I think one of two things happens. I like the prediction that something centered around the DePaul game is going to come. I think option one, he is going to either joke or not joke, but just be so abruptly straightforward to the point of challenging the media to fire him. I think that's like, say they lose to DePaul. I think we get a quote from Kenny Payne in the press conference that's just like, fire me. What are you going to do? Fire me. And like, he's going to mean it in a joking way, but everyone's just going to be like, dude, what are you doing? My second option here is I think he's going to praise Sky Clark, who's actually been pretty great as a scorer for this team, right? Like he's scoring 20 almost every night right now. He had 21 last night in the win over Bellarmine. I think he's going to say that Sky Clark deserves National Player of the Year recognition at some point. Like just pure delusion. Give my guy Sky some accolades, and everybody's going to laugh at it. But one of those two things, that's what I would expect next from Kenny Payne. What an unprecedented situation, man. He's hilarious. This is good for the sport. It's more fun than talking about Villanova losing.
Hey, I'm not mad. I can't wait to see Sky Clark drop 20 on 8 or 20 shooting in a loss against Pittsburgh. Can't wait for that.
Yeah, might be a win the way things are headed right now. I don't know. You taking Sky or are you taking Bub?
I'm taking Bub out of loyalty, but I'm going to need him to learn how to go left one of these times.
I can't believe you hesitated on that. That's crazy. That's how I know Pitt's down bad, by the way. You think for 1 second I would hesitate on a Doug McDaniel prompt against Sky Clark? Come on.
Not a good time to ask. When you see your team not make a field goal in 8 minutes, you're kind of depressed. Like at least you know your team will give up 100 to Long Beach State, but you'll score at least.
Yeah.
Kind of more depressing when you can't score and you just watch a bunch of clips.
Yeah, fun losses. I'm fine with that this season. That's okay. No expectations, right? It's great. All right, fun show today. Let's get to one big thing presented by Bigby. Tristan, yesterday we had a water diatribe from you. What's your one big thing today?
Yes, so this one is focused on nature and exclusively to some people. A shout out to Connor Hope if he checked. But what's the point of hiking? Hiking might be one of the top 5 unnecessary forms of exercise. Like you're literally just walking upwards going up heights to see a bunch of trees and rocks that you've seen everywhere else, get up to the top and say, woo wee, we're at the top, and then turn around and go down for no reason whatsoever. You already got air. There's no need for that. There's who knows what else is out there at the top of the mountain. There's like mountain lions, there's bears, coyotes, rats, all of that stuff. You don't need to go up there and adventure. You can just walk. Just go look wherever you live. Just do a circle around your house, and there you go. That's your little hike. And you don't even hurt your knees. You don't need to have bad knees just to experience nature. Just, take a nice little walk on equal ground, and you'll live longer for it.
This show has gotten so unhealthy. Like Carter got sick and Tristan's been here for 12 hours and now we're spending a good 3 minutes every episode on reasons to be unhealthy.
I didn't say anti-walking. No, there's nothing wrong with walking. But what's the point of hiking? Then you got to put a backpack on and bring in unnecessary things. Like, why? It's pointless. Okay,
so you don't like hiking. You don't have beef with walking. You have beef with hiking. But do you like walking though?
I do. I don't like being still. So actually taking a walk and listening to podcasts and stuff, it just clears your mind rather than just staying inside.
See, I feel like you're hitting me with I do, but like you said, like with running and with like even drinking water, you don't actually like those activities. You'd have to just train yourself and trick yourself into liking them. You haven't tricked yourself into liking walking?
No, I've always been a walker.
Okay.
Ain't nothing wrong with walking.
Okay. What are you drinking right now?
Mountain Dew.
That's Code Red Mountain Dew?
Yes.
I love Tristan.
My ass been up since 6 a.m. I needed something. What am I gonna do? Oh, I'm tired. I'm gonna wake myself up with a glass of water. Who does that?
Get a coffee.
I've had coffee one time, like years ago, and it was nasty. Never tried it again. It's like bootleg pop. There's no reason for it.
There is reason. It makes you untired.
And then you need a coffee maker, and then you gotta get one of those little filter paper plastic things and all that. There's no point for that. Just get this out the fridge and drink it, and you're good.
Oh my God. All right. Carter's a pretty healthy individual, I would say, but given his current state, I would not expect me begging for him to come back to save the health of this show. But I think that's where we're at right now. My one big thing presented by Bigby is this is a just quick, serious. We don't need to get sentimental on it, but today's the Field of 68 tip-off event in Boca. They're going down there. They've got Florida Atlantic hosting this event. They've got Liberty as well, and I'm forgetting the third team right now. Do you know the third team off the top of your head?
Carlton Charleston.
Yeah, it's our city, right? So cool concept for this. They're running it different than any other MTV that I've heard in a while. And correct me if I'm wrong. If you've heard of one, let me know. But it's a 3-team event, and they basically are round robining this. So tonight, Florida Atlantic is going to play Liberty, and then next day, different matchup, and then next day, different matchup. But we're going to have many of our familiar faces from the Field of 68 down there. I believe Matt McCall is there. I think they're sending Chris Mack. I believe Goodman and Rob and at least a few others will be there. But cool moment. That company means a lot to me. They are the people that gave me my shot at getting on this train whatsoever. Started with like a couple Zoom calls with those guys where I basically begged them for any sort of role whatsoever. And to see it grow from like absolutely nothing. Like I think the first time I ever talked to them, Rob had like a logo that he had sketched and an email account. And to see it grow into a thing where now they have a real event with their name on it, with real teams that are actual good basketball teams, and they're going to be doing live shows from Boca. And selfishly, I know it's stupid and a little self-centered to say this, but like the logo is a logo I came up with. Like it's crazy that something from my brain is now like an event that's on t-shirts with basketball teams there. It's such a cool thing. Rob Doster deserves a bunch of credit. Everybody that works on that network should be really proud of what they've done to make this event a thing and to make the Field of 68 something that has enough name brand recognition to host an event like this. So congratulations, Rob. Congratulations to the Field of 68. And I hope Florida Atlantic wins by 80 in this event. I hope they just steamroll everybody and they can talk about how good the Owls are.
Yeah, good teams. I mean, College Charleston has high brand name recognition. Liberty as borderline top 25. I mean, this is actually a legitimately good field, good opportunities for each of these teams. And one thing with Field 68 covering is they're actually going to care about the basketball aspect of it. So I'm looking forward to it. I'll be writing about it for the Field 68 Daily, by the way, for tomorrow morning. So I actually do have to pay attention.
You got to love it. All right, that's the show for today. We will be back in some form on Friday, whether that's Tristan and Mountain Dew cans or whether that's Carter and Dayquil. Who knows? It remains to be seen. But thank you, Tristan, for being here this week. It's been awesome. And click subscribe on the YouTube channel. We'll see you tomorrow.